feeling like they have a new life, I will not gonna stop for that. I just keep going.
For the first time in the more than 2 decades of Somali conflict, there's a sense of optimism. A newly appointed president, planned reform for the country's security forces, and promises of substantial support from the international community. Somalis, it seems, have had a taste of normal life, and Al-Shabaab violence, no matter how bloody, no longer holds the power it once did. Ni'mal Bagher, CNN, Mogadishu.
The UN says violence in Iraq killed more people last month than in any other month since June of 2008, and that is being blamed on the rise in sectarian clashes. The majority share were sidelined under Saddam Hussein, but they now hold significant power, and many Sunnis say they are gearing up for a slowdown. CNN's Our Demon has more on that, but we must warn you, it does contain some images you may find disturbing.
Away. The soldiers taunt the men as they flee. The narrative seen in videos posted to YouTube, whose authenticity CNN cannot independently verify, appears to contradict the government version of events. That its forces were targeting terrorists who infiltrated a camp of anti-government demonstrators in the town of Hawija last month, some 2 hours north of Baghdad. Amid the blue tents used by demonstrators, bodies are strewn about. One collapsed next to a wheelchair. A man in what appears to be a SWAT uniform kicks a corpse in the head. The image is feeding the rage of Iraq's Sunni population. The following Friday, the calls to bring down the Shia-led government of Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki were amplified, especially here, one of the main centers of the protests, located in Iraq's Sunni heartland of Al-Anbar province. Demonstrators have been blocking the highway for months. We traveled there over the weekend. The men launch into a tirade against Maliki's government, who they accuse of oppressing the Sunnis and indiscriminately throwing them behind bars. He considers us all to be Saddamists, one states. They tell us the Hawija massacre was a message. And it's a message they've been expecting. We've been ready for a long time. We are certain that al-Maliki is a liar. The political process is just a game. Sheikh Ali Hatem Sleiman, one of the main tribal leaders here, tells us, our weapons are everywhere, light, medium, and on up. The tribes with a culture entrenched in weaponry have a fighting force at their disposal that has plenty of experience. They allied themselves with al-Qaeda in Iraq and battled U.S. forces for years before turning on the terrorist group. This time, Suleiman vows that no matter what, they won't allow al-Qaeda to dominate again. The tribes are not and will not again be a nurturing ground for terrorism, he tells us. The tribes are forming the so-called Army of Pride and Dignity. Each tribe will be responsible for its own men and their actions, pledging there won't be another Hawija.
This is what remains of an Iraqi army convoy that was attacked at the end of last month following the incident in Hawija. And a few days after this attack took place, on this same road, a vehicle carrying Iraqi army soldiers in civilian clothing came under fire as well. 5 of them were killed. Following that incident, the Iraqi government, enraged, demanded that the perpetrators be handed over or else. And all of this happening just outside of where the demonstrations take place.
Everyone claims they don't know who the attackers were. And while there are some efforts to dial back the tensions, many Iraqis fear that their country is on the brink of yet another civil war. Arwa Damon, CNN, Ramadi, Iraq.
We'll take a second break. Stay tuned.
Oh Gambia, go discover the smiling coast of Africa.
Welcome back, and it's now time for the sports news with Fatou Jassi.
Thank you, Fatou Sani Sise. The first meeting of World Football's Anti-Racism and Discrimination Task Force has taken place and now finished at the FIFA headquarters in Zurich. The task force, of course, has been set up by FIFA after AC Milan's Kevin Boateng walked up the pitch during a game in Italy, having been racially abused by fans. The head of the task force, Geoffrey Webb, says they wouldn't shy away from hitting any team hard.
It must be also removal from a competition, suspension from a competition, relegations. If we have to take points, if that's a deterrent, then we take points. But we must send a very clear message that is totally unacceptable.
Let me put it to you that Spain, in a World Cup qualifier ahead of the next World Cup, there is a major incident of racism involving Spanish fans. Could you foresee a situation whereby Spain, the defending world champions, would not be competing at the next World Cup as punishment?
Well, if of course, any national association, regardless if they're world champions or someone not competing in a World Cup, if we create the infrastructure, if we set the laws and the parameters, and if you consistently infringe on those laws, then really you are deciding the outcome yourself.
Well, that's all in sports. Back to you, Fatou Sani Sise.
Thank you, Fatou Jassi, and it's now time for the weather report from the Central Forecast Office.
The source assures us of a continuous flow, and from there, everything follows. And for those of us who know what the River Gambia stands for, understanding its sustainability in all aspects of life is easily confirmed. The River Gambia provides nutritious delicacies as food, while it provides its wildlife a balanced ecosystem. This river, as a sanctuary, is committed to its inhabitants' needs without season. And as you travel along, all these values are replicated in one company, Elton. Just like the River Gambia, leads in its commitment to values that matter most. Elton, championing the vision for a new generation.
Hello and welcome to the weather segment, beginning with a summary of the weather during the day today, followed by our forecast.